Thank you very much. And now Professor Nada Moumtaz will put it all together in 10 minutes.
However, I think there's interesting resonances in their arguments and with the conference themes on a more abstract level, so bear with me on that abstract level. We've tackled one of the key words of the conference obliquely, the entanglements of the entangled worlds, and as in our first discussion, for example, of political theologies. And I think both papers also, so that's the first theme I'm going to try and pick up. And then the other one was they actually talk to the notion of soil that is also in your title through their attention to the medium and materiality and space. And that's something that I think the second session papers started to make us think about. So let me begin with entanglements. Jeremy's paper reminds us that the distinction between science and pseudoscience, religion and the secular, is not easy to make. Images of the aura are medical and esoteric, technologically and artistically grounded. New Age is neither religious nor secular, but rather both. So the so-called scientific representations of the aura use the scientific method in testing the effects of various therapies. And at the same time, also as he mentioned, science itself is far from having reached a stable counterpoint to New Age conceptualization of what he calls the dynamism of bodies, and just as health and the removal of body ailments remain frustratingly elusive goals. I was reminded of that when I was just given medicine, and I was told that I should take it at night because it will probably make me sleepy, but I should beware because it actually make me not be able to sleep. Or I should, so there's kind of the biomedical knowledge also kind of being sometimes less than exact. I was reminded in these debates of the debates on the so-called scientific miracles of the Quran, or scientific exegesis, which are most often also dubbed pseudoscience, and as discussed by Yunus Teliel. Teliel shows that this genre is wedded to a different project of producing kinds of subjects. So the work of scientific exegesis is not simply in proving, say, the existence of God, which is an ontological question, but rather in solidifying faith, or what he calls internalizing certitude, by providing continuous and various kinds of evidence and signs of the existence of God. So believers should be constantly seeking signs so that their belief is substantiated through these scientific miracles. Well, science is actually wedded to a different project where an objective evidence-seeking subject finds truth that is out there. Now, Charles's paper speaks of a different entanglement between church and state, what Paul Johnson, Pamela Klassen, and Winifred Sullivan have called in their recent volume, Ecclesia, church-statedness. So I will start at the end of where you talk about the narrative of the Reconquista at the moment when the nation was built, as a foundation built around militant Catholicism. And this union between state and Catholic Church, as you says, merges ecclesiastical time and secular time. And I would love to hear a little bit more about these temporalities and their entanglement. And the other moment of entanglement I thought that was really powerful, was the way the church uses Christian ritual ceremony to make legal claims asking for the property to be registered in the name of the church. Charles here notes that there's an equivalence between what he calls an ecclesial act and a modern juridical one. We have an attempt to effect a translation from one mode of sovereignty to another. So again, I would love to hear a little bit more on the church's claim and how they get translated in that legal system that requires property deeds registration. In a footnote, you mentioned the conditions of the possibility, but I was curious about what happens to these claims when they're embedded in a legal regime that has a very different grammar, and how the old kind of ritual gets reframed differently. So I will now just turn very briefly to the other common theme that I think they probe us to think about, which is materiality. And for Jeremy, what explains the proliferation of these discourses against the mainstream, like New Age, is very much tied to the medium the medium that makes these images possible. And so they bring possibilities of seeing what is there that we couldn't know that was there, but also they have limits which are related to the common instruments and the technology they use. And And this is for Jamie because images and visual knowledge, as he says at the end, are always partial, and every disclosure is only a partial disclosure, as he puts it. So in every image, there's an excess and a residue which can lead to the proliferation of alternatives from within these same images. So I wondered how such an attention to materiality and the medium can help us rethink sovereignty and sanctity, as you ask. And then Charles highlights the importance of space in the making of these claims of the un-Islamicness of or Christianity of the mosque cathedral, and whether the depiction of elements like the lamps or the fact that Muslims who built it, by racializing Muslims as Arab and not black. And against these narratives, I also wondered how the materiality and the space of the space itself stands and provides counter-narratives, if you will.
Thank you very much. Very exciting papers. And thank you all for coming today and for your question and the discussion that we had. And you'll bring back your orders tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.